can't think of Jeff Minter without the word legend in my head. He's been around the industry for many years and still makes artful games that have influenced a great number of people.
I always found Jeff and his games fascinating because, you know, Jeff was so distinct and it's just so unlike anyone else. And he's one of the true originals, one of the true iconoclasts in gaming. There's no one else like him. If Jeff didn't exist, you'd have to invent him, right? Because someone has to be that guy.
There aren't enough people like Jeff. He is in his things. What he makes is him. What makes Jeff stand out, and what for me was the whole point of the artistry when I was younger, was this notion that it's you in the thing. It is an extension of you. It is a part of you. It is part of your character, your personality.
What he's making is stuff he makes out of love, and that's always been present in everything that he does. I think that's just one of the things that makes the games lovely, that makes the games are so integral to Jeff, and Jeff is so integral to the games.
Obviously, I was a big fan of Jeff from the 80s. I think he was one of the main reasons I got a Commodore 64 after having a Spectrum. After seeing, I think, Sheep in Space and Revenge of the Mutant Camels, I thought, oh, hello, this is interesting.
It was this lifestyle, cultural choice that he'd made, which was so different to everyone else. Everyone else was just a company or a product, and Jeff was Jeff. He was in magazines talking about his life. He was talking about what interests him, what was different about the way he approached it. He was engaging with people directly, and Jeff was passionate about the art of making games, being himself, and if people like to pay him money to do that, fantastic.
The way he dressed, it looked a bit rock starish and hippie-ish as well.
He had long hair and a beard, and he dressed a bit like a hippie, I suppose, which I could relate to, because in the 70s I grew my hair long. Well, we weren't called, well, we were known as hairies then.
He always had those Peruvian jumpers and the animals in there, oh yeah. And the long hair and oh yeah, here he is. Here's the hippie. He had like an Afghan coat, no sheepskin on the outside and the fluff down the front. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Very different from the other programmers that he met at those times. Very, very different.
It's somewhere between being very rock star and not rock star at all. I can't quite decide because he will just dress how he likes and speak his mind, and he's very lovely and very open to speaking with everyone. And it is very interesting to see someone who's never really fallen into the trap of wanting to conform to what the industry thinks anyone should be.
Jeff's always just made peace, I think, with living in the sideline. He's never given up on game design as a discipline, as a vocation. It's all very much work, but it is like, you know, this kind of peaceful kind of compromise between like, this is going to be the work, but I'm only going to agree to do this amount of work for something that I really love.
A bit tempesty when we're going into a tube. I do like the tube shooters.
I've been lucky that I was so far in my career, I've always managed to work on stuff that I want to do, and I guess I just stubbornly want to carry on doing that, really. I don't want to sort of compromise that in order to potentially make more money or whatever. I'd say I'm definitely off mainstream. I have kind of a tangential connection to the traditional game dev scene, I think. I want to enjoy what I do. I want to feel happy with the things that I've made, and I want to make things that I want to play with. was in school. I dabbled in lots of various things. I got a skateboard. I was a skater for a while, really enjoyed that. I wasn't even aware of the link between computers and video games, really. And it's only because I walked into this room one day in college and there's one guy sat down the end with this weird thing which looked like a telly on top of a typewriter keyboard. Appeared to be playing some kind of crude game on it, and when I was a bit curious, went over and asked him where did that game come from. And he said he types it in. That was the moment that completely changed my life. I really enjoyed the act of programming. I thought that I'd finally found something that I actually had some kind of genuine aptitude for. But out of the whole sixth form college, we only had one machine, which was a Commodore PET. And officially, you had to book up half-hour slots. You could have 1 half-hour slot a day, and that wasn't really enough time for me to get stuff done. I mean, the thing is, back then, the Commodore PET was quite expensive. And I didn't come from a rich family. There's no way that our family could have afforded a computer, and there's no way I individually could afford a computer. I only had pocket money at the time, didn't have a job. And then this item came on the news and showed Clive Sinclair demonstrating the prototype of the ZX80 in some school somewhere. And the idea of actually having your own computer at home was unbelievable. I really, really, really wanted that ZX80. And so eventually got the money together and ordered it. It actually arrived on the same day as my A-level results. And I remember just forgetting all about my A-level results and tearing open the box from Sinclair and spending the rest of the day sat in front of my ZX80, having a wonderful time. The availability of these machines cheap is what really kick-started the software industry, because when other people started having these machines, they wanted software for them. And in fact, that's how I got started, really. I went up to a ZX Micro Fair. I had some tapes with some more simple games I'd done on them. And I got talking to this one guy on the stand for a company called DK-Tronics. And I showed them some stuff and they said, well, perhaps we could sell it. And I said, that's fantastic. And so I ended up doing some ZX81 programs for them. Nothing caught hold of me the way that programming did. I mean, it was just such a powerful thing. I just wanted to do it all the time. I was actually working quite a heavy schedule, and at the time I was going to Oxford Polytechnic. I was commuting to Oxford from Tadley, which involved like a 7-mile bike ride to the train station, get on the train, another couple of miles, and up a very steep hill to get to the Polytechnic. All day at Polytechnic, back home, and then I was coming back and I was spending my evening hours working on this stuff at DK-Tronics. And then one day at Polytechnic, so I just suddenly felt really, really weak and really sick. And I had like tunnel vision. Then it was obvious that some shit was not right. And they found out I had some condition called pericarditis, which is where it's an inflammation of the lining of the heart, and the heart rubs against it and becomes distressed. And that took me 6 or 7 months to recover from that. It made me very weak for quite a long period of time. I had to have a lot of rest, and one of the things I could do while incapacitated that way, I could still do my programming. I mean, while I was ill, that's when I did some of the work which led to my first Llamasoft games. Llamasoft was formed originally as a partnership between me and these other guys. I've been hanging out with this son of a guy who owned the local video store in Tadley, and him and his dad, they said, why don't we form a company together and sell some of your games? You've been ill, you know, you've got to look after stuff. We'll look after all the business stuff. And we started doing stuff together. When we first started out, I was doing what everybody else was doing, just copying arcade games. On the VIC-20, I did this game called Defender with an A on the end, because that's how everybody used to avoid copyright back then, so they thought. And then Atari started throwing their weight around and threatening people. We thought we'd better at least make it so it doesn't say Defender anymore. So we changed the name of the game to Andy's Attack. Andy's as in the mountain range. Instead of rescuing humans, you rescued little llamas. It was a pretty crappy version, a chunky character-based scroll, and the ship was the size of a bus and handled about as well. These other guys who had a big deal of that, they wanted to have 70%. I naively thought, oh, well, maybe that's a good deal. I don't fucking know. And I mentioned this to my mum, My mum was like, absolutely no way was this going to happen. And she insisted on meeting up with the people, and it was like, it's going to be 50-50 or not at all. But it became apparent they weren't going to negotiate, they wanted to have 70%. So we ended up splitting, quite acrimoniously, I remember. And Llamasoft became basically our family business, with starting out with me and being my mum. My mum doing a lot of the admin, sort of business side of things, and me just doing all the programming.